So we're going to start EduConnect 2021. For the keynote speech, let me invite CEO Sean Stewart of New Lab.
네, CEO 스튜어트님을 무대로 모시도록 하겠습니다.
So much. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for the kind introduction. First and foremost, thank you to LG and for everybody here in Seoul for welcoming us with such a kind and hospitable city. We've been thrilled to have a few days here and really appreciate the opportunity to tell the New Lab story as we've expanded our business from New York City to around the world. For those of you new to New Lab, we are a community of technologists, researchers, and entrepreneurs based in New York City that are applying transformative technology, what's at the bleeding edge of what's possible, to some of the world's biggest problems. And we're thrilled to be here today to tell you a little bit more about the New Lab story as we expand our impact overall. The New Lab story starts right here in Brooklyn. If you've ever been to New York City, we're based right between Dumbo and Williamsburg on the East River of New York on a 300-acre campus. A 300-acre campus similar to the Science Park where we are today, where people can build and test new technology in a city that looks like New York, feels like New York, but is actually private grounds that you can pilot your technology on. But our story goes back a lot further than just these most recent developments. Our building that we'll show you actually opened in 1905. The Navy Yard campus was opened in 1803. And our building was used by the Navy to build the major battleships for the First and Second World War. The USS Missouri, the USS Arizona, these were battleships developed right in our building. But by the end of the 50s and 60s, this building was no longer in use and no longer as active. And Mayor Bloomberg, the mayor of New York City at the time, brought us the opportunity to transform this building, this legacy of advanced manufacturing, into something that would be relevant to modern times and to help New York attract and retain the best talent from around the world in advanced technology. We stripped its building back to its skeleton, back to its core, and started to rebuild it up to build the perfect home for technologists from around the world, including teams from right here in Seoul, to help build their companies and expand their technology, starting with New York, but into the rest of the world. After 2.5 years of work and over $50 million in government support, we opened New Lab 4.5 years ago, in line with the vision of David Belt and Scott Cohen, the two co-founders of New Lab. And New Lab today, we focus on helping entrepreneurs build their companies. We bring founders together as a community of technologists, all with their own skill sets and expertise, their focus of industry and application. And we harness shared resources, labs, equipment to help these entrepreneurs succeed at what is already a very challenging affair of building early stage technology and companies. But then we take this early technology and we pair them with large corporations that have vision, just like LG, with governments that have problems that need to be solved, and we bring them together. Our belief is greater innovation will happen through collaboration, not independence, not through stealth, not through hiding what you are working on, but by teaming up and collaborating, greater progress can be made in some of these challenges. The New Lab business today that we'll walk you through focuses on 4 major areas. We have our membership, a community of over 900 technologists, 206 different startups from around the world who are part of our community and come to New Lab physically and virtually to build their product and technology and take it to market for scale. In addition, we have our innovation studios, which take our access to this talent around the world and work on problems and opportunities for large corporations and government bodies where the bleeding edge is relevant. What's being developed outside of the 4 walls of their corporations is relevant to their growth and success, and we bring them together to build and pilot these new solutions. We have a venture studio that we'll talk about that also builds new companies based on insights from our innovation studios. And then finally, you can't succeed as an entrepreneur without capital. And we bring a syndication of investment opportunities to investors around the world who can invest in these early stage companies that are part of the New Lab community. And we support their fundraising to ensure capital does not prohibit growth. And so if we jump into the business today, there's 206 companies based in the Brooklyn Navy Yard today, over 900 technologists and entrepreneurs. We've had over $1.3 billion worth of capital invested into these companies, and we're about to hit the first $1 billion worth of acquisitions, where large corporate partners have come in, have piloted and tested the technology being developed, and have ended up acquiring those companies to be part of their portfolio and overall ecosystem. The combined value of all of these companies has now peaked above $4 billion US dollars, and we've only accepted 9% of the companies that have applied to be part of our community. North of 2,600 companies around the world have applied to be part of our community, and we've picked just the best, the 206 that are there today. And so that's where our DNA begins, the membership, these communities of technologists and entrepreneurs that are pushing the edge of what's possible through technology. Funded by venture capital, they are not resources that corporations can hire. They are independent technologists and entrepreneurs pushing what's possible with technology. About 23% of these companies are led by female founders and CEOs. 70% are led by people who have masters or PhDs in their areas of expertise. And we're close to 40% of these entrepreneurs have built more than 3 companies. These are serial entrepreneurs who continue to build and build as their personal passion. Finally, and incredibly exciting as we consider expanding here in Seoul, is that 38%, almost 40% of the companies based at our building in New York relocated to be in New York. They moved from other parts of the world, other parts of the country in the US, to bring their technology, bring their talent, bring their capital, and bring their growth to New York City. And this community, we take the approach that we call the Noah's Ark approach, which is a community is stronger if you have representatives from all different fields. We don't want just AI and machine learning companies. We don't want just robotics or just quantum computing. For the greatest benefit and collaboration, we want all of them. If you need an expert in fluid dynamics, but your expertise is quantum computing, within the community at New Lab, you can find that expertise. Entrepreneurs come up with problems and hit obstacles every day. They come from an academic environment where expertise exists. You can talk to a professor about your problem, meet a PhD student about your problem. But what happens when you graduate from SNU and you no longer have that ecosystem of support? This community becomes that support. And so we have companies like Honeybee Robotics. They helped design the first rock abrasion tool for the Mars rover. They've been on multiple missions to different planets to collect samples and bring them back to Earth for NASA analysis. We have Seek, John Levy's quantum computing company that came out of IBM and Hyperion, working on stable quantum computing platforms for specific applications. But it doesn't just stay in processing. We have Launcher, who recently announced their expansion to California, where they 3D print rocket engines that can launch cube satellites the size of a Rubik's Cube into outer space. And these are just some examples of the amazing technologists and entrepreneurs within our community who come to New Lab every day to push the envelope of how technology can solve some of the world's biggest challenges. But once we built this community, we started to see a lot of interest from corporate and government bodies. One simple question: how can I access talent like this to work on my problems, my opportunities, my inefficiencies, or my threats? I can hire the best talent I can in-house. I can build my best R&D team, but what about the talent I can't hire? What about the talent funded by venture capital, building their own companies, owning their own IP? How do I know what they're building? How do I test what they're building? How do I learn from what they're building? And how do I eventually partner to build what they're building with them? And so our Innovation Studio product came about for the insights we see in corporate R&D in corporate America and around the world. And we're excited to talk to you about that a little today. First and foremost, if you look at the S&P 500, the average age of a corporation on the S&P 500 continues to decline every single decade. In 1960, the average age of a company on the S&P 500 was 60 years old. LG, a legacy company of multiple generations and decades, most companies back then had great age and legacy to them. But since then, in 2020, for the first time, the average age of a company on the S&P 500 dropped below 20 years. Why? Early stage technology, new business models, new product lines are coming in and disrupting legacy businesses. Netflix takes out Blockbuster. Tesla comes in and competes with Ford. New product, new technology is disrupting industries and taking older age companies out of the mix of the S&P 500. At the same time, spend is growing in R&D. The R&D spend continues to rise, existence is under threat, yet corporations struggle to find the right ways to test and learn from early stage product and technology that may disrupt them. How do you avoid being a statistic like this and being a company that did not survive an incoming technology or product that they weren't aware of? And so what we see in corporate R&D is that threats are growing. It is cheaper today than it has ever been to build a startup. The cost of cloud computing, storage, access to talent, remote workers versus having to hire in California or tech sectors, it has become easier and more affordable to build new technology and new companies. It's not limited in the way it was a decade ago. And at the R&D spend, 3 sectors continue to dominate. Computers and electronics, which obviously LG knows very well, healthcare and automotive are the large percentage of R&D happening. What about the other industries that aren't funneling that R&D budget? And the impact of success is very clear. The companies that successfully innovate, that have the greatest innovation index, R&D spend, are the companies that show the greatest growth, EBITDA, overall trajectory, and market capitalization. Innovation is not a luxury anymore. It's not theater anymore. It is a requirement for survival, and its impact is very, very clear. And so we came to corporations and government bodies and said that emerging business models, new products, new technologies being developed in early stage companies are either experiments you can learn from and understand and partner with, or they will become tomorrow's threats if ignored. Last year alone, 25,000 startups were created around the world. How do you know what they're doing? How do you know whether it's going to impact your business? How do you know if their technology is real and can potentially deliver the benefits they claim? Our innovation studio is a solution to that, because corporations are faced with 3 options when they see this challenge. 1, business as usual. Do what you're doing, don't change anything. The second is build an in-house R&D effort. I worked at Google X. Google X is a great example where Alphabet develops an in-house focus. Hire the best talent you can afford. Build the best technology, own the IP, take your products to market. It's an in-house focus where you don't look outside of your 4 walls, but focus on building the best teams you can internally. What we propose, the final option, is an external and internal strategy, where you build your best R&D efforts, you hire the best talent, and then you come to us to work and collaborate and pilot with the startups and the talent that you cannot hire. Not everybody wants to work for LG, as amazing as a company as it is. Not everybody wants to work for Google. So how do you work and understand what those people are doing? And so the question becomes, we've seen a massive change in GDP and overall impact from the coronavirus and the pandemic that the world has been pushing through. Traditionally, when GDP goes down, so does R&D spend. Less money gets dedicated to innovation. So who's going to benefit from this cycle? Venture capital dollars have not slowed down. They are still funding new startups, new companies. While corporations pull back on innovation to ensure a stable future during a pandemic, who will benefit from the technology and innovation that has continued despite that? There is a cycle and an opportunity that many corporations can access by starting to innovate and test with these startups at a time when many corporations are concerned about their stability and their growth. And so our innovation studios are a minimum 12-month partnership between a corporation or a government body and New Lab. They work through 5 key stages of work over a 12-month cycle. First, we kick off to understand what are we focused on. We've worked on track inspection systems for railroad companies. We've worked on urban charging and electrification solutions for motor companies. We've worked on mining solutions to avoid explosions in mines through cyanide leaks. What are we going to focus on? What is the problem you're worried about? What is the inefficiency we can solve or the challenge that you think we can overcome? Then we begin our research. What is happening in academia that you should know about? What IP has been filed that is relevant to the problem or opportunity? What startups have raised money that's relevant? And not only direct technology, but what adjacent technology exists out there? When a mining company came to us, a gold mining company in India, and said, we have a problem with cyanide leaks causing explosions in mining operations. We went out into the world to look for technology that could potentially identify and alert people to these cyanide leaks early. However, the best solution we found globally was a team in Berlin that had developed cyanide detection for food. Food production needed to be tested for cyanide in the food samples. Yet that startup had no idea that their technology was relevant to mining. The mining company had no idea that this company existed. We bring them together, and that moves into the convening and then the building, which is that mining company then starts to develop and improve their technology with the startup. You're actually going to build and customize a solution based on the startup's IP and technology that you can then, at the final stage of the process, pilot. Everything leads to piloting, because piloting is where you actually know, does it deliver? Everybody can do nice slides. Everybody can do a good sales pitch. Let's put the technology into its intended use case and see if it works. And this to us is the entire value of this 12-month cycle. Finding the best relevant early stage technology and piloting it to see if it actually delivers on its promise. At the end of this 12-month framework, the corporate or government body can license, invest, acquire, or partner with this technology in any way they like. And we help negotiate and support that partnership. These studios exist today all around the world across all different problem sets. It's not a model designed just for healthcare or just for mobility. It can actually apply to a range of different industries, technologies, and opportunities. If we start in the US up north, we're working with Ford on urban charging and electrification issues. What technology can accelerate the use of electric cars? If you buy an electric car today, the biggest complaint from car owners is how do you charge it? I can't charge on the street. I can't charge at home. There's no charging at gas stations. That network is a prohibitor to selling electric vehicles. How can we find early stage technology that can be invested in, that can accelerate charging infrastructure around the world so adoption of electric vehicles accelerates? Then if you look coming down south from Michigan, in Rhode Island in the US, we have a blue energy studio with Ørsted, which is designing and deploying wind turbines off the coast of the US for offshore energy, where we're using early stage startups to help locate the right places to deploy wind turbines for energy creation. In New York, we work with the Air Force and the Department of Defense, where we test technology for the US Air Force to help them with specific problems that are limiting their capabilities at the armed forces level. We work in Africa with the UN and the Uganda government designing refugee camps for a higher quality of life through advanced technology. These are just some examples of our innovation studios. But what I want you to hear here is that it works across different industries, different technologies, different geographies. It is being applied by large corporations like Verizon in 5G product development, Ford in urban charging, government agencies like the Air Force, and the City of New York, where we're helping with energy storage and urban planning through advanced technologies. But sometimes, just sometimes, the corporation pays us to find a solution to a problem, and we don't find it. We go out into the world, and they make it clear to us we need a solution to this problem, yet we find nothing that's ready for piloting, nothing that's mature enough to test. And so this is what gave birth to our venture studio, where we went back to clients and said, if you know this is a problem that needs to be solved, and we can't find anyone who's solving it, why don't we solve it together? Why don't you partner with us? We'll be co-founders, and we will build new companies together outside of the monthly pressures of KPIs, quarterly objectives. It is hard to build a startup. It is even harder to build a startup while running a large corporation. And so our venture studio takes these opportunities and builds new companies where we help grow them at New Lab for the corporate who is a co-founder and an owner in those business, but it can be isolated away from the daily challenges of running a large corporation. Two examples here. Francesco Marconi, you can see there, was the head of AI at the Wall Street Journal and News Corp. He came to New Lab to build Applied Excel, where New Lab is a co-founder in this business together with him, where he saw an opportunity to use AI and machine learning and computational journalism to build a platform of medical research, similar to having a Bloomberg terminal where you could log in and understand what's happening in clinical research around the world. Another example came from a white space in the ventilator market. At the peak of the pandemic in New York City needed 4,000 ventilators, bridge ventilators that could solve the challenge of customers or patients with COVID-19 who are having trouble breathing. We built a company with New York City's government called Spiro Devices, along with 10x Beta and Boyce Industries. And in 12 weeks, we developed a prototype for a working ventilator for under $4,000 per unit instead of $40,000 per unit that they were finding them for in China. We delivered these units to the New York City government in a record 3.5 months, and now we grow and scale that company together overall. And so the Venture Studio allows our resources to support founders, to reduce the risk and product fit faster, to work with a corporation like LG to find an opportunity, to pilot a new solution, then to build a new company. They benefit from our in-house services and strategic resources. They benefit from our corporate and government relationships, like our partnership with LG, and we help them through investment and access to capital through our own syndication system to ensure they have the funding to grow and scale appropriately. That led to Fast Company's Innovation by Design Award. Our work on these bridge ventilators led to us actually winning the overall award from Fast Company of Innovation Company of the Year for developing this bridge ventilator in a record time and being able to take it to market to solve that shortage of hardware in New York City. And so if you look at the business today, what we've walked you through are these 4 aspects of our business. First and foremost, you have our membership, 900 technologists, 200 different companies around the world, all building technology to solve some of the world's most pressing and challenging problems. From there, you have our 2 studio offerings, our innovation studios that tackle corporate and government challenges through this type of talent and community around the world. Our venture studio that then builds new companies based on the insights from these innovation studios. And finally, our investment and syndication of these opportunities for investors, where they can invest in the companies being developed at New Lab with the insights from these case studies and the insights from working with them day to day. We've taken these 4 products and offerings, and we focus on various different industries and opportunities. We work in health and humanity. We work in media and truth around journalism and the distribution of information. We work in materials and the environment, biofabrication, sustainable materials. What will be the building blocks of society in the future? Will they be like they are today, or will they have developed and expanded in ways through advanced technology? We work in infrastructure and resilience. What does the city of the future look like? Seoul is one of the most advanced technologies and cities when it comes to its infrastructure and the adoption and use of technology every day. How do these cities grow in the future? How do they meet carbon goals? How do they meet energy usage goals? How do they make urban planning and city decisions more efficient and more appropriate? And we appreciated working with various governments around the world to tackle those types of problems. Like every community and technologist today, we're focused on sustainability in the planet. How will technology improve the way our planet exists? If you have children, what's the planet you're leaving behind for the next generation? And how will technology help solve some of the major challenges around global warming and the climate crisis that we are all experiencing? And finally, cities and equity. We're working in Detroit on public transportation and mobility solutions for the average Detroit resident. How can technology improve your insight into information and your ability to move from A to B around a city? And this is the New Lab ecosystem that we're thrilled to be able to come today and explore and discuss with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Can I ask you some questions?
Of course.
All right. So you have mentioned about the expanding business model.
Yeah.
And were there any challenges in order to expand your business model? And in the first place, what were your reasons to expand the business model?
Yeah, that's a great question. The New Lab business has ended up having a range of different impacts and outputs. The first is job growth. Is that in New York City, Brooklyn has gone from 11th in tech job growth to now number 3 over the past 5 years. And the Center for Urban Futures in New York said 11% of those tech jobs came out of our building. Companies start with us very small, and they grow to be too large for our house. Just like your parents moving you out when you get older, these startups move out into New York City and grow and scale from there. So the first impact we had was on economic development and actual job creation. The second was that we started to find the ability to improve the success of these technologies and products when they could pilot and collaborate with large corporations like LG. They both have something to gain. The startup can test their technology with a large, experienced corporation that can help them scale, help them de-risk the tools, while the corporation gets access to talent and technology they may not be able to develop in-house. And that together has brought opportunity. And so what we've seen as we've scaled the business is scaling through those two. We've scaled to Michigan as an example to help forward with various mobility challenges, while we're expanding in New York to help the government attract new types of talent. Synthetic biology, life sciences are becoming a growing topic. And so now we're building new labs that can support that type of entrepreneur to ensure New York attracts and retains all types of entrepreneurs.
I see. What was your what was the most inspirational or memorable experience that you've had?
Oh, there's a lot. It's like asking your favorite.
You mentioned about working with the bigger corporations. So
Yeah.
when that happened, which subject or what kind of program did you help with, and what was the result?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we were thrilled by was the versatility, was that every topic and challenge corporations or governments have brought to us, the Innovation Studio model has been suitable for that solution. So it can work for Verizon in 5G product development. It can work for IBM in quantum computing, algorithm testing. It can work for Ford with urban charging and electrification. We've been thrilled that it's been able to apply its model to various different use cases and challenges for various different clients of industry.
I see. Now the second question. If Korean startups want to apply for the New Lab program, what should they do and what is the process? And what benefits can they expect?
Great question. Yeah, you're going to hear, or may have already heard from Amergy, one of our companies at New Lab in New York City. They're working on developing fuel cells from ammonium, and they are graduates from right here in Seoul who came to the US to build and scale their companies. They apply to our website. You can go on and apply on our membership screen. And they fill out a basic application that then comes to our membership department. Our membership department then interviews these companies. We first want to understand their technology. And the beauty there is we have a community of technologists who can meet them and test and understand their technology to see if it can deliver what it claims to deliver. So that first hurdle is your technology review when you apply. 90% of the companies we reject fail the technology review. which is that there are great companies out there. I worked for Airbnb, amazing business, but there's nothing advanced in the technology that developed Airbnb, so it's not suitable to our community. You can have a fantastic business model and product, but what we focus on is the bleeding edge of what technology is capable of. So that's our second assessment. You start with the tech, and then the second assessment is what type of entrepreneur are you? What's your background? How do you add to our community? Are you the same as everybody else, or do you have something that makes you unique, a skill set or an experience that would be incremental to our community? And then the third piece is, do you compete with anyone here? We don't want to have 4 companies all competing for the same customer or the same opportunity. We try to build versatility, the Noah's Ark approach. Let's make sure there's 1 or 2 in each segment, but let's not build too many so that they compete and overlap.
Okay, so I think from what you said, proving your technology is the important part, and also proving how you're different and how you're differentiated from other technology is also a very important part. Yep. So now we come to the third last question. I heard that you're considering a New Lab Asia office. What are you expecting from the Korean startup ecosystem compared to the one from America?
Yeah, I mean, Seoul and Korea overall has a lot that is incredibly attractive when it comes to an innovation ecosystem. What we look for are a few different kind of signals that the market is appropriate for this type of community. The first is supportive government. New Lab would not exist in New York if not for the New York City government, the city, and the state that helped fund the development and have supported our work every day. The New York Economic Development Corporation, the Partnership Fund for New York, these are government entities that teamed up with us to help ensure we could succeed in New York. Seoul and Korea overall has equally active government that are excited to bring technology and talent to the region, that support entrepreneurs and startups to grow in this region. And so that first area seems very strong here, and we're excited by that potential. The second thing we look for is talent. And you find talent through 2 different ways. One, coming out of academic ecosystems. So people graduating from SNU every year, how can we work with them to bring them into our community to help them build their companies? You want a city and a country that has rich technology talent. And certainly Korea has been known for that for many years, and not something that we need to help you with. So that rich talent is very attractive. On top of that, you want large corporations that are providing early stage entrepreneurs with access to capital. Employees that start at LG may one day be able to leave with money to build their own company. And when that happens, you want them to have an ecosystem here in Seoul that keeps them here. You don't want them to go somewhere else to build their company. You want them to build and grow right here locally. And so that first assessment after government support is talent through academic ecosystems and through corporate entities. And then the final piece, which is kind of proven here by my presence with LG, is we want corporate partners that we can pilot and develop technology with. You need a rich environment of corporations that are willing to test what's possible through technology, that are open to innovation through collaboration. And so as you can see, with all 3 of those measurements, Seoul is a fantastic and attractive city to bring this type of business model to. And so we're very excited to be here and very excited to explore further how we can support the overall innovation ecosystem that has been built here many decades ago.
All right. Thank you so much for your answers.
Thank you.
Thank you.